All right, everybody. Thanks for being here at Football Fridays at the Eck and for another edition of Catching Up With. Our guest this afternoon has guided the Notre Dame men's basketball program to two of its greatest seasons ever and two consecutive appearances in the Elite Eight. Please say hello to your head coach, Mike Brey.
We on? Yeah, we're on. All right, we're on.
All right, Mike.
Great to be with you.
Thanks for coming. 2 seasons ago, you had that great year, ACC championship, go to the Elite Eight, but you lost Jaron Grant and Pat Connaughton, the two leaders and stars of the team. Heading into last year, without those two guys, did you think the team could repeat that performance and make another deep run in March?
I really wasn't sure because I didn't know if we could replace the leadership. Grant and Connaughton were great players, but they were amazing leaders for us too. And could we really get Demetrius Jackson and Zach August to lead at that level? And I really wasn't sure we could do it. What was so pleasing about last year was that both of those guys, August and Jackson, became great captains and leaders and set a tone for us, especially in March. So they really grew in that department, and now those two guys leave the building, and a Steve Vastori and a VJ Beecham and a Bonzie Colson kind of take the leadership baton. But, we've had a continuity to our program. We don't have one-and-dones. We have guys that are with us and grow up with us and get older and get better. So you always have some juniors and seniors in our culture that are ready to help me run the program and lead things. And I've been really pleased with that. And so far to date, we've had about a week of practice now. Beecham and Colson and Vastoria have been very good setting the tone.
Last year was such a special season. There were a lot of great moments in the regular season. Beat North Carolina when they were ranked number 1 here at home. But one of the most special was when you went down to Cameron Indoor and beat Duke in their place. And it's so hard to win down there. Not that we should be surprised by that. If I have my numbers right, I think since we joined the ACC, we've played Duke 7 times, and we've beaten them 6 times.
Yeah, we've been pretty good against those guys.
Yeah, what is it that's allowed you to have so much success against your former boss, Coach K, there?
Well, I think our guys certainly love playing that program. Obviously, that program it's a great program. It's been a model program for years, and I think your guys are really excited to play against them. Probably what's helped us is I've talked about how we always have juniors and seniors playing important roles, and we're always staying old. We're never too young. Duke has kind of gone with the one-and-done route, and while those one-and-done 18-year-olds are going to be lottery picks one day, they're still 18 years old, and they're playing against my 20-year-old guys. Bonzie Colson gets 30 and 10 in Cameron, and he's playing against some younger guys. Now, Duke's a little different this year. They've got the young phenoms, but they've also got a nice mixture of some returning guys. Of course, we play them here on a big Monday game in late January. But that's given us great credibility, our success against them. I was talking to some of the trustees yesterday. In our first 3 years in the ACC, the 2 flagship programs, Duke and North Carolina, because we've played them in tournaments, either in the ACC or the NCAA, we've played them 13 times in 3 years, and we're 8-5 against them, which has given us great credibility.
The NCAA tournament run last year was so exciting. Beating Michigan in the first round, Rex Pfluger's tip-in to beat Stephen F. Austin. But I think especially for Notre Dame fans, the moment they're going to remember for years to come is the last 30 seconds of that Wisconsin game and the grit that the team and especially Demetrius Jackson showed refusing to lose. How proud were you of the way the team played in that game?
Yeah, the neat thing about this group right now is, they really believe March is their time. I mentioned Beecham, Colson, Vastoria. Let's add Pfluger, Ryan, Matty Farrell. Those guys have won a lot of games in March together. They kind of feel it's their time. Now, the challenge every year is, you just don't get an automatic bid to March. I mean, we play in an unbelievably deep league this year. We're going to have to earn a bid, and that will be harder this year to get a bid than it was the previous 2. But that group kind of had a belief about them and a toughness about them, and there was no question the last 30 seconds of the Wisconsin game, Demetrius just kind of willed us to it. And I was so proud of him because he played so well in the NCAA tournament. Even in the regional loss to North Carolina, his last college game, he was fabulous. And it was time for him then to we've only had two guys leave early in my tenure, Troy Murphy and Demetrius Jackson, and they were both good business decisions. Troy, as you know, retired, came back and finished his degree. He finally got his degree. He made $70 million, though, before he got his degree. So I think that was a good business decision. And Demetrius, at some time, will come back and finish school.
With Demetrius, heading to the Celtics, you look around the NBA now, there are a lot of Notre Dame players around with Pat and Jaren, and I think Zach's heading to the D-League with the Lakers. What does it say about the program that we're consistently putting guys in the league?
Well, that's really helped us in recruiting, and there's no question about it. The young people that we're recruiting now, certainly the ones that come here want to compete in the classroom as much as the basketball court, absolutely. And they know that we've won and we've played well in the ACC. But when you can show development for the NBA, and especially our guards, Connaughton, Grant, and Jackson, that is really powerful to be able to sell. I think it's really helping us in recruiting. And, we've got two guys that are seniors this year, Vastori and Beecham. They are prospects right now. And it'd be neat to see if we could get one or both of them involved. But I've liked it. We're a little bit of a throwback. I've loved that guys have great years in their senior year here. That's the way it used to be. You get better, you get older, you pay your dues, and you have a really great senior year. Zach August, the light bulb went on for Zach August when he was a junior. We need Martin Gibbons' light bulb to go on as a junior, and I think it will. VJ Beecham, freshman, sophomore year, up, down, growing up. Last year as a junior, here we go. So Matty Farrell now as a junior, and obviously the minutes he gave us, we started him in the NCAA tournament. I told somebody the other day, he's so confident with how he played in the NCAA tournament, he thinks he's Steve Nash, and I'm not going to tell him any different. I want him to keep thinking he's Steve Nash right now.
Yeah, we're all excited for the season to start. I know you just started practice. One of the big changes was on your coaching staff. You had some guys move on. Martin Inglesby gets the head job at Delaware, but the folks you brought back are familiar names to Notre Dame fans. Two former greats, Ryan Humphrey and Ryan Ayers, players of yours, have returned to be assistant coaches, and Eric Atkins, I know, is back in basketball operations. What does it mean to the program to have guys that know your system so well and succeeded on the court mentoring the current players?
Well, I was thrilled. I've had these guys warming up in the bullpen, so to speak, at different colleges, but I haven't really had any movement on my staff. And in one day, I lost two guys. And that staff that we had maxed it out together. We had an unbelievable run, but it was time for guys to do some other things. Anthony Solomon did a fabulous job for us. He's at Georgetown. Martin Inglesby's back in my old stomping ground at Delaware, putting a team together. But for me to have Ryan Ayers, Ryan Humphrey, and Eric Atkins all come back, all guys that played for me. They never played together, though. It's three separate eras of my tenure. They are unbelievable role models for our current team. Our current team, I told them in the first team meeting, you guys don't know how lucky you are that you're going to be able to interact with Humphrey, Ayers, and Atkins on a daily basis. And then talking to my older guys at the end of the summer, after they had a couple practices, they are really excited. They keep me young. These young guys are running all over the office. They're keeping me young again, but it's neat having them back.
You mentioned earlier how VJ Beecham really stepped up his game last year. In the NCAA tournament, I mean, he played as well in the NCAA tournament as just about anybody in the country. Do you think, looking forward to this year, his senior year, can he kind of maintain that level of play throughout the season? That's
the challenge for him, and he and I talked about that a bunch in the summer. Can we rely on him for 30 games like he delivered for us pretty much in 4 games in the NCAA tournament? That's his next step. He's done a really good job leading. He's a really confident guy right now. We've got to do some things to help him get open. As I'm looking at this year's team, our big guys got to do a better job of screening and getting him open. But he has the ability to be a first-team all-league player for us and kind of set a tone, along with Steve Astoria. Steve Astoria is one of those guys that opposing coaches go, he's still there. I figured he's been with us so long, and he's kind of a silent assassin. But those two guys, we need to help get them open, and our big guys kind of have been charged with being good screeners.
When you talk about the big guys, Bonzi obviously returning is a known quantity, has played so well in so many big games, and can, for an undersized big guy, can really mix it up with bigs on the other team. You mentioned Gebbin earlier. Is he sort of the key guy that needs to step up to replace Zach August?
I think he gets the first bite of the apple. You know, we've really had him playing with the starters. I want him confident. He's 6'10", he's 240. He's got himself in better shape. He doesn't need to do a whole lot. He can keep it simple, get Vastorian, beach him open, play post defense, rebound. He makes free throws. He's one of those big, if you foul him, he's going to make free throws. We need to nurture him. But, you know, coming behind him, you've got Torres now, who's been an energy guy for us and plays a great role. Elijah Burns gets eligible, who was hurt last year. Johnny Mooney, a freshman from Orlando, Florida, has been very impressive the first week of practice. So we've got, it may be by committee there, but we need Martin Gebbin to be a key guy, and I think it's my job to keep him very, very confident right now and making him believe he's a key guy for us.
Rex Pfluger and Matt Ryan as freshmen last year both had such important roles on the team. You know, Matt Ryan hitting a lot of big shots throughout the year. Rex, an incredible defender, and obviously his big play in the tip-in in the tournament. For those guys, what's the next step for each of them? Where do they need to improve?
Well, both of them, and I mean this as a compliment, they're both total pains in the backside. They got an edge about them, and some days they're hard to deal with, but I will take that any day because they love to compete. They love to go after people. They're extremely confident in themselves. There's a mental toughness about them. Even last year as freshmen, they played in big games last year. Obviously, Rex's tip-in against Stephen F. Austin, I told him he'll come back to reunions here for the next 50 years and never buy a beer. You know, he's bigger than life. But we need that mental toughness and confidence. Matt Ryan's got a boot on right now, a little bit of a stress reaction in the foot. We should have him back November 1st, so we'll get him back at the right time. Pfluger's been fabulous. We almost have like a sixth starter with him out there. He's just added to his game. He's good with the ball. He guards everybody. He makes winning, he made the tip in, but he makes other winning plays. For example, the big rebound to win the Duke game, he got it. He went up in between 2 6'8" guys and got it. A loose ball on the floor that's a big possession. We did a game situation that he gets it. So those two kids have a toughness and an edge about them that we need, and they will be big, big parts of our nucleus this year.
You said Matt Farrell earlier thinks he's Steve Nash now. We didn't see that much of him in the regular season, but he really stepped up in the tournament. Is he ready to we've had such a great line of point guards here over the last number of years. Is he the next guy in that line? Is he going to be the starting point guard?
Right now, he's the guy we want to go with, and we'll go with him, November 1st in our first exhibition game. He is extremely confident. One of the reasons we put him back in the lineup in the NCAA tournament was to take a little pressure off of Demetrius, because everybody was kind of loading up on him, and we got Demetrius down the floor, and he could score, and Matty delivered for us. I mean, we don't get to the regional final without Matt Farrell delivering for us. He's a fearless kid. He's got great toughness. He made every big shot in March. He made big shots for us. There's a toughness about him, but there's no question he's the experienced guy. But another guy that will play, and will play with him some, not only back him up, is TJ Gibbs, a freshman from Seton Hall Prep, who's had, with Johnny Mooney, those two freshmen have had a very good first week. But we need Matty Farrell to be confident. And, you think about, you got the big three are Colson, Vastoria, Beecham. And then, right now, Farrell and Gebbin are playing with those three guys. And we need Farrell and Gebbin to feel like they really belong and get them confident.
When you look at the team, I know it's only been a few days of practice, but you look forward toward the season and the rough ACC conference. What are you most worried about?
Well, I guess we've had a great trait of staying resilient, and that goes with great leadership. We're going to take some big punches, as we've had every year, as we did last year. Can we hang in there and bounce back and stay together through the tough stuff? And the scouting report on us, we've been able to do that. The culture of the program kind of lifts it to that. But it's going to be harder in league play because the league is deeper and the league is better. This is the best ACC we have played against.
You talk about the culture of the program. I think one of the hallmarks your entire tenure here has been how well Notre Dame passes the ball and how unselfish, really, to a man, all the players are. Is that because you target those type of players in recruiting, or do you develop it once you get them on campus?
I think a little bit of both. Jay Billis had a great comment a couple years ago, said, you have a culture of passing. And we really do, but we certainly want to keep emphasizing that. But we recruit that, and specifically with our big guys. We would try to recruit big guys that are good with the ball, that are good passers. Right now, Bonzie Colson was an okay passer. He's become a great passer. He's led us in assists a couple practices. Martin Gebbin is a pretty heady passer. Johnny Mooney can pass the ball. Certainly the guards we've recruited have all had a basketball IQ and a feel for the game. And, our ability to move the ball has kept our offensive efficiency, in the top 5, sometimes top 3 annually. And that's kind of been where we've hung our hat, being so darn efficient. We had a few too many turnovers in our scrimmage with the refs on Tuesday, so we came back and watched film yesterday, and the first 10 clips that I clipped off were 10 turnovers. To just reinforce, like the ball is gold, man. Don't mess with that thing. The ball is gold. Don't be loose with it. And overall, we've really digested that.
When you look at the schedule for this year, in addition to the always tough ACC slate, there are some big out-of-conference games this year, including some in areas where we've got a lot of Notre Dame fans living that I'm sure they're going to turn out. Are there a few that you've circled on the schedule that you're really excited for?
Well, I think, we'll go to Brooklyn, and we certainly like Brooklyn, So it'd be nice to go back to Brooklyn to the Legends Classic. We play Colorado there, and then the winner of Texas Northwestern. That's the week before Thanksgiving. Of course, the ACC tournament will circle back to Brooklyn in March. And I was, again, talking to our trustees yesterday, and I really can't wait to see. This is the first time the ACC tournament, and a Southern League, obviously, is going to take its tournament north of Washington, D.C. I cannot wait to see, like, the Clemson fans trying to get around Manhattan and Brooklyn. That is going to be fun. I mean, with those big orange sweatshirts, aren't they like Targets in New York? It's just come rob me. Just come get me. Anyways, Brooklyn will be fun. We've got Purdue down in the Crossroads Classic in Indianapolis. That's a great day of basketball. Many of you have attended it. Butler, Indiana in the second game. Purdue will be a preseason top 25 team. Iowa here in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. And then we have the defending national champions in Newark, New Jersey, Villanova. We've got Nova back there in December 6th. So a very challenging non-league. What's great is you have some scalps you could put on your resume. If you could pick off a couple of them before you get into league play, then it takes some pressure off of how many wins you need in league play to get that NCAA bid.
Coach, you got a lot of fans here, and we want to take some questions from the audience. Sure. But before we do that, I wanted to ask you about what sounds like it's going to be a really exciting event right behind us tonight on the bookstore courts at 8:30. It's called Ball Out at the Bookstore. I know you and your team will be there. Muffet McGraw and the women's team will be there. There are going to be free food and games people can play. Why should folks, turn out and come see you tonight?
Well, we're going to have fun over here tonight. You get a chance to see our guys up close and personal. You'll be right down there on the court with them. The women's team, the men's team. We'll do some contests. Hopefully the women's team don't beat all my guys and take their confidence and stuff. But it's going to be a fun night, just giving away stuff. There'll be food. It's kind of a way, it's kind of our midnight madness. We're going to do it right out there at the bookstore. We'll take the court around 9 o'clock. But please, if you're getting around campus, and it should be a nice, cool night, please come by and visit it. Hang with our guys. Come out, high-five them a little bit. Put some pressure on them. Tell them they need to get to the Final Four. Whatever. Just get on them.
All right, we're ready to take questions from the audience, so raise your hand if you got a question. We're going to come around with some microphones.
Coach.
What do you like the most about coaching? What do you like the least about coaching?
Yeah. Okay.
The question was, what do you like the most about coaching, and what do you like the least about coaching?
Well, I have a lot more likes than dislikes. You know what I love? I love what I'm going to do in about 30 minutes, getting on the practice floor with my guys. I get to do that 6 months a year. Our season's long. I miss it when I don't get to do it in the off season. And getting in with your guys, seeing a guy grow, seeing a Zach August grow from an erratic, kind of an immature freshman to a guy who's a man, seeing a Demetrius Jackson who was an unbelievable story with his family situation, 5 foster families, do a great job for us, grow up, get more mature. Those are the things that really move you. You know what's neat now is I have 3 assistants that played for me that you really feel responsible for nurturing and developing to being head coaches one day. That's been fun since the staff has changed over. The one thing that you can't, if you get to disliking it, then you probably should retire, is recruiting. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of travel, and I've been doing this for 30-plus years. I still have great energy to do it. There are days where I go, man, I got to get on this plane and go see this 16-year-old today, and you fight that sometimes, but it's a big part of it. I always remind myself, if that slips, then the program usually slips. The one thing about here, unlike a state school, I don't have to go out and do as much alumni stuff. Some guys are out the whole month of May with their football coach going around the state doing their thing. Now, I pick spots and I do things, but they've been great where they don't really wear us out in that sense. But I still got a lot. This is my 22nd year as a head coach. Got a lot of energy. I love coaching here. I'm so honored to be at this institution. The kind of kids we get are energizing to be around. So I still think I got a number of good years in me.
Another question here.
Coach, years ago, we used to play UCLA and the University of San Francisco almost annually.
Yep.
We haven't been out to the West Coast in a long time, and Notre Dame has always had tremendous following, of course, out there. Is there anything on the schedule of scheduling UCLA and USF, particularly in the future?
Great question. It's funny, my assistant and I were talking this morning about getting out to UCLA. Like, that's the natural one. Probably that one before San Francisco. One of the reasons I'd like to get out there is I'd like to bring Rex Pfluger home for a game. So maybe his junior and senior year, we'd start a home and home up with UCLA. Here's the issue. When we had all that flexibility as an independent, we could play all over the place. Now we have 18 league games spoken for, and if you read, we're going to 20 league games in the ACC. So you have to be strategic. In 19, we'll play 20 league games. What are you doing outside your league? You'd play too many UCLA's, Villanovas, Purdue's. All of a sudden, you're hanging on for dear life. But we will get back to Westwood. The UCLA one, we played them a couple times, and I want to get Pfluger home. And, of course, I know of our contingency on the West Coast. There's no question about it.
Mike, as the executive director of the Notre Dame Alumni Association, I think what I just heard from you is that we've taken it a little too easy on you, and then we should start pushing you a little harder to come out with us. Is that right?
Well, I figured every time I do this, and then I'm off the rest of the year. So I come to this one. I knew I shouldn't have said anything. Dolly was listening back there. It's like, he's got more free time. Let's go to the well.
You already do a lot for us. Thanks.
Question over here.
Coach, one of our great stretches in basketball was back when we were recruiting all kinds of great players from Washington, D.C. Was the recent recruiting of Harvey, could that be a harbinger of things to come?
Well, I think, the area, we love the area, and I'm a local guy.
And you're a DeMatha guy,
I'm a DeMatha guy, and that area has been so good. You know, I wish we could have used Franny Collins, who was our D.C. pipeline guy back in the day. We lost him a couple years ago, but of course, back then you could use alums to get some things done and help you in recruiting, and he was fabulous. The other thing back then was that pipeline started because coming out here, you were going to be on TV. There was no Big East. You know, you didn't have as much competition. For kids in that city now, there's great competition. Obviously, Jaron Grant was great from there. Eric Atkins is a Baltimore kid. We have a commitment from a kid there. We're still recruiting a kid in Baltimore. Love that area. Gonzaga has really, that whole Catholic League in D.C. has been good. So I love going back there. I know the coaches there. And the kids that we've gotten from there, the current high school kids have seen these guys come out here and have success. So that really helps us, no question about it. We've got 3 kids from Jersey on our roster. So the state of New Jersey, Philly's good to us. Got 3 kids, the Boston area has been good. Connaughton, Colson, August. So getting back up in those areas. And I got 2 from New York right now with Elijah Burns and Matt Ryan. So, I always say D.C. to Boston, that is a great corridor for basketball players. I call it, the kids that come out of there have what I call I-95 edge. They got a little edge about them on I-95, and that helps us.
Coach, would you talk some more about recruiting for next year and the year after?
Yeah, right now we have 1 commitment. We have, we'd love to get 1 more guy in this class. Even though we have 2 more scholarships to give, we'd love to get 1 more guy in this class. But in the meantime, like tomorrow, we'll have a bunch of juniors. We'll have the younger kids coming in for the day unofficially. I think what we really need is, frontline guys. And, we really need to look at some frontline guys because we will lose Torres, Colson, and Gebbin in 2 years. They all leave together from our front line. So size is something we'll really concentrate on. Possibly, do we need a point guard? We've looked at that a little bit. But I think for the most part, frontline, young big guys is what I need to get out. Matter of fact, we'll take a break for fall break. We'll practice Monday through Wednesday this coming week, and then I give them one last little break, and the next time they get a break is Christmas for a few days. But those days, I'll get back east. I need to go through Boston and New York and see some kids.
Coach, being younger and knowing what I want to do when I get older, I want to become a basketball coach just like you. So, any advice on how to become to the level you are, or?
No, it's a great question, and it's been a lot of fun. I started as a high school coach. I spoke to the ACE program last week about some kids that, want to teach in a Catholic high school and coach. I told them, back when I taught at a Catholic high school, then I had to work bingos on the weekend. Those were the great Catholic fundraisers. I was darn good at selling bingo cards back in the day. I was damn good at it. I could run one here to raise money if we needed to. But what I would say to you is get connected and start with us. Email me about working college basketball camps in the summer. Try to get to 3 or 4 universities, work their basketball camps. There's where you start to get a network. Meet the assistant coaches. Don't necessarily need me. Get to know assistants because those are the guys that then eventually become head coaches. And there's great stories in college basketball where a high school coach or a camp coach became really close with an assistant. And then when the guy got a head job, he hired him because he brought him with and that rapport was built. So work camps in the summer, volunteer, coach AAU teams, do everything. And, if you could adopt a 7'1" kid from Nigeria, I'll hire you.
I think we got time for one more question because Coach has to get to practice. Right there.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about recruiting again. You say in the East you come a lot, you get a lot of students. But how about getting another Rex Pfluger from California again? What clues you to get to?
Yeah, well, it's interesting with Rex's recruitment. That's a great question. My early years, we would spend a lot of time out west, but when it came down to it, the guys we wanted, when UCLA and Arizona wanted them, it was hard for them to leave the Pac-12. And as a matter of fact, Klay Thompson, who's a pretty good player last time I checked, his dad told me he's coming here. He visited here. He went to Washington State. No disrespect to Washington State. Nobody else wanted him in the Pac-12. He just wanted to play in the Pac-12 so bad. He couldn't connect with playing in the Big East and coming to South Bend. Rex was different. But I'll tell you why Rex was different. UCLA didn't want him. Stanford messed up. They took a kid from Georgia, and they kicked themselves today. Thank God they messed up because we benefited. And Arizona didn't want him. And so we had a little bit, better shot at getting him out of there. And he recruited us a little bit instead of us going there. And you got to get from those West Coast guys, I need a little bit of a sign that you could come to South Bend, Indiana, and play in the ACC, where you're a long way from your parents, But so open mind everywhere. We're doing a lot more in Texas because Ryan Humphrey, and we had Carlton Scott from Texas, Joey Brooks. Ryan Humphrey's an Oklahoma, Texas guy. He's been down in Texas a bunch too. So, with basketball recruiting, you're looking everywhere, and you're anywhere you can find them, you look. I brought up D.C. to Boston because if you look at our roster, It's really concentrated there, and that area really seems connected to us right now.
Well, as I said, unfortunately, we're all out of time. But if you haven't gotten your fill of Coach and the men's basketball team, remember you can go to the bookstore courts tonight. Ball out at the bookstore, 8:30. Men's and women's team will be there. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time out.
See you soon. Thank you.
And we all look forward to another great year.